I call you the WeWork startup reporter because in 2019, I was sitting with you face to face, not socially distanced, less than 6 feet apart. And we were starting to talk about WeWork having a lot of issues. And no way did we think that they would eventually go public. How is this happening?
It's such a funny end to a very convoluted experience that they've had trying to go public. By the time that this SPAC deal, which they finally announced today, by the time that happens, it'll probably be, third quarter of 2021. That'll be 2 years after their first attempt at going public in 2019, which we all remember was a total disaster and set in motion a bunch of, Adam Newman, the co-founder and CEO, left. There were all these layoffs, and they had this tumultuous 6 months only to then be hit in the face with a pandemic and a place where nobody wanted to go to the office. So it's kind of surprising that, they have a strong business. It's just much smaller than it used to be. And so I'm not surprised that they're continuing on. But it's just such a funny 2021 twist that they would be going public with a SPAC.
A SPAC with Shaq in backing it as well. It's so perfectly 2021. It gets ridiculous, Ellen. But talk to us about, therefore, what Shaq and the rest of the people behind the special acquisition company see in WeWork. What's the $9 billion really vindicating?
Right, and you're totally right. Shaquille O'Neal is an advisor for BowX, which is the company that's going to be used in the SPAC. I think they see probably the same message that WeWork has been putting out since both the kind of their failed IPO and then again through the pandemic, which is, look, we got too big before. We were too ambitious. A lot of it was Adam's fault. And now we've pared down. We've cut a lot of extraneous costs. We've really reduced our expenses. And look, the pandemic, it seems bad, but they see a future in which, and I can believe this, in which people are going to be less attached to their offices and are going to want more flexible solutions for being in the office sometimes and sometimes not. And WeWork wants to try to step in and provide that. They're definitely pushing more and more toward their customers being large enterprises rather than, the startups and freelancers that imbued their early years. They're definitely going to be selling to the big companies of the world saying, hey, we'd like to make your offices a lot more like hospitality rather than everyone with a permanent desk. Wouldn't you want your office to be a nice place where people can drop in a few days a week, have meetings, that kind of thing. So that's really the future that they're pitching in a post-pandemic world.
Is there any pushback given there were some rumblings from the SEC and regulators this week, just asking banks about their dealings with SPACs and any rumblings about why they're choosing to go the SPAC route instead of an IPO route?
I think if you were to ask, market observers, they'd probably say it just probably seems harder to go back to the IPO route where they flamed out so dramatically, and I think they had a lot of SPAC interest, and so I'm not surprised that they're going this route. What's interesting is, the valuation is, much more in line with, the $8 or $9 billion that SoftBank was investing in WeWork at, 2 years ago after the whole IPO fiasco. So you remember before it was up as high as $47 billion, and now it seems to have really settled somewhere in the low single or the high single digits. And so it doesn't seem like that surprising in that sense. And I think this is just probably a vehicle that's available to them. And they are eager to move forward. The leadership of the company has talked a lot about how they have plans to be profitable by the end of 2021. I'm sure they would like to be able to be public as well.